Tonight on Newshour, US-Pakistan ties appear to be entering a new phase. On Pakistan's Independence Day, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced Washington's intention to explore cooperation in critical minerals and hydrocarbons, citing Pakistan's counter-terrorism collaboration and vast resource potential. Well, the message comes amid a noticeable warming of relations under President Trump's second term, after years of frosty engagement during the Biden era. In recent weeks, both nations have moved to deepen economic security alignment. Now, the US has formally designated the BLA as a terrorist group. Pakistan has signaled openness to American investment in mineral-rich regions such as Balochistan, and discussions have touched on hydrocarbons, rare earth elements, and infrastructure. For a country often portrayed in the West through the lens of regional security challenges, Pakistan's economic potential is increasingly hard to ignore. With a young, fast-growing population, a strategic location linking South and Central Asia, and forecasts placing it amongst the world's largest economies within the next half-century, Pakistan then is emerging as more than a security partner. It's a market and a resource hub in its own right. Well, for the latest from Pakistan's capital, let's cross now to our correspondent Hira Mustafa in Islamabad. Hira, good to see you. How is this announcement then being received by officials and the public, and what do they see as the key opportunities and challenges?
Well, Guy, the news here in the capital has been received very positively. We have seen the country's finance minister and other top leaders praising President Trump's statement last month about securing a trade deal with Pakistan and exploring the country's mineral and oil reserves. Pakistan's Commerce Minister says U.S. companies coming to Pakistan through joint ventures could give a big boost to the struggling economy, which is currently relying on IMF support under a $7 billion loan program. This partnership also opens up a rare chance to tap into Balochistan's mineral wealth, home to some of the country's largest copper and gold mines. In one of his recent statements, he also mentioned that U.S. companies partnering with local firms would even be offered concessions like lease grants, and this will create opportunities for the locals in the area too. Officials say this collaboration isn't just about financial partnership, but it could also strengthen ties between Pakistan and the U.S. on a broader bilateral level. In terms of challenges, experts say security must be a top priority, as many of the country's mineral reserves are located in southwestern province of Balochistan, a province that has long been affected by militant insurgencies. Ensuring the safety of foreign nationals, analysts warn, will be crucial if Islamabad wants to attract international companies for joint ventures. Observers say a deal with the U.S. allows Pakistan to reinforce its regional standing, coming at a moment when the country's arch rival India is facing hurdles in its trade talks with America.
Okay, joining me now from Islamabad is Javid Rana, a political analyst and journalist, and from Taipei, Taiwan, the political analyst Ross Feingold. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Let's go to Islamabad first. Javid, this is a big win, isn't it, for Pakistan, not just in terms of economic potential, but crucially in terms of soft power.
I think the beginning is good, but the problem is the devil lies in details. There are essentially, these are the initial understanding, memorandum of understandings, but will those targets would be achieved? Right now, as we speak, Pakistan's relationship with the USA, I think they are on idle grounds. Idle in the sense that at a time when President Donald Trump is not very happy with India, which is Pakistan's arch rival. And he's cozying up with Pakistan. But again, we have to see a bigger picture. Many in Pakistan believe that the relationship between USA and more particularly under Trump's administration, it is most likely to be transactional. It is not going to long last. For the time being, we have all positives. Americans want to have investment in Pakistan's minerals. And then Donald Trump administration is also very much interested in supporting Pakistan's crypto business. Now we have to also see the bigger picture that the reason we are seeing so cozying up relation, it has a domestic scene, and I think the opposition party, the mainstream opposition parties, whose main leader Imran Khan is in jail, the Pakistan's powerful military is trying to essentially counter him because he has managed through lobbies to develop good relation with the congressmen, and there have been resolutions against Pakistan's government where asking for his release. So I think that is where the real problem lies.
Okay, very interesting. Let's just look at that bigger picture from the other side and come to you, Ross. What is the US going to get out of this? What are they, is this purely about minerals, about hydrocarbons, or is there a bigger strategic play happening here?
That's a really interesting question, and frankly, I would say at the moment it's broadly unknown. We do know that President Trump is very attracted to agreements that would give the United States government or U.S. companies access to a country's mineral wealth. We've seen that in Ukraine, we've seen that in Congo, and now potentially we're going to see that in Pakistan as well. On the other hand, although there's a lot of attention in recent weeks about Trump's complaints that India is buying oil from Russia, which is helping Russia's war in Ukraine, I would be very, very cautious about any kind of determination that the Trump administration and President Trump specifically have walked away from that close alliance with India. We saw that close alliance in the first Trump administration. It continued during the Biden administration. There are a number of people in the US Congress, as well as in the Trump administration, who are champions of a close US-India relationship. So again, I'd be very cautious about making any determinations that the relationship between the US and India or the relationship between Trump and Modi is done.
And Javed, it sounds to me like you're saying that sort of cautious, pragmatic approach is also happening in Islamabad, that there are some immediate tactical advantages, both economically and geopolitically, but it's not a case of a marriage made in heaven, long-term strategic partnership just yet. There's quite a long way to go.
I don't think so. Pakistan's relation with the USA essentially has been a tactical. It has never been strategic, though there has been a lot of talk that it has been strategic. But whenever Americans needed Pakistan against the former Soviet Union, they had Pakistan. And when they needed against Afghan Taliban, they had Pakistan. Once their wars against them ended, then Americans simply went out of the region. And I think in a broader context, I agree with your other guest. He's precisely right. Right now, what are the targets of the Americans? There are two targets. One is essentially putting a lot of pressure on India. Lot of pressure to bring an end to the oil import that India has been undertaking from Russia. That is a bigger target.
And Javed, apologies for chipping in. But what's that pressure about? Is some of that pressure also about China?
I think geostrategically speaking, over the years, the policy of the Americans have always been to use Pakistan against China. Now, that is where Pakistan is reluctant because China has invested tens of billions of US dollars in BRI in Pakistan, and that is where Pakistan's strategic interest involves. I don't think Pakistan under any administration would compromise that. The military generals can give them assurance, but practically that is the most unlikely to happen because you have seen that during last war with India in May this year, China out of the way helped out Pakistan. So Pakistan would never compromise. On the other hand, Americans are essentially trying over the years to use India against China. And I think that is where the real problem lies. Now, under Trump administration, things are going from bad to the worst, and that is why now there are initial vibes suggesting that India is trying to cozy up with China because India knows that the Americans have been using it.
And Ross, what is the political calculation going on here? I mean, how much further does the Trump administration think it can annoy India and cozy up to Pakistan? Is there a sort of understood limit to this? Is there a sort of a medium-term game plan?
That's a very fair question to ask. Again, I would say that in the Trump administration and in the U.S. Congress, there are a lot of supporters of India who are going to encourage President Trump and his Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who frankly doesn't need much encouragement based on his past history. But there are going to be a lot of champions of a closer India-U.S. relationship who are going to constantly remind the President and the Secretary of State about that. The Indian American population has grown significantly over the past 15, 20 years. They've become very politically active, and generally they've been a higher profile in supporting Republicans than Democrats. Although there's a number of high-profile Indian Americans who are Democrats in the U.S. Congress, and in fact, their politics are quite progressive, such as Representative Jayapal from Washington, Representative Krishnamurthy from Illinois. But generally speaking, the Indian American voters have become very supportive of the Republican Party and very supportive of the close relationship between Modi and Trump. And I contest that. So it really remains to be seen what Trump really wants from Pakistan beyond access to the mineral wealth. But again, I'm going to take the view that Trump ultimately prefers and is more comfortable with a stronger relationship with India.
It's very interesting. So calculations then not just outside of the USA, but within it, within that domestic electorate too. Javed, I just wanted to go back to you and talk about two things. Firstly, this economic boom that is predicted, this rapid growth in the country, clearly one of the reasons that people are attracted to doing business with Pakistan. I just wanted to get your view on how realistic some of these projections are. And also, one of the things President Trump clearly likes to do is to consolidate into partnership agreements, to put labels on things, to sign documents, MOUs. How likely do you think something along those lines might be between the US and Pakistan?
I think despite political unrest in Pakistan over the years, since February 2024, when there was large-scale rigging in the election, when a winning party was made to lose the election, despite that, I think the military generals who actually call the shots in the political government, they have managed to show some semblance of economic development. And I think that is the positive sign. And part of the reason is that there are all good vibes coming from the Washington. The tariffs is just 19% as compared to India, which is ranging from 25 to 50%. So, and then Pakistan is getting a somewhat competitive grounds in the international market. That's an advantage. These are all good optics for the businessmen outside Pakistan to invest in this country. But the bigger trouble is that since Pakistan's democratic credentials are being now challenged in all over the world, so that is where I don't think the investment would be that much forthcoming. I mean, yes, the economy has started recovering. That is a positive sign. But again, when you look at the broader picture in Pakistan, the domestic scene, the benefits of this initial growth has yet to trickle down onto the common people.
And Ross, what is Mr. Trump and his administration, what are they thinking about in terms of potential conditions, safeguards for any future partnership? Where do they see the greatest areas of leverage, greatest areas of concern when it comes to Pakistan?
There's actually a number of issues that arise in that context. I mean, one, of course, is, as we've been discussing, is access to Pakistan's mineral wealth. So if Pakistan's government is willing to give the U.S. government or U.S. companies, frankly, inordinate and unusual amount of access and potential profits to Pakistan's mineral wealth, of course, that's going to be attractive to the United States government and to American companies. The other issue, as you mentioned earlier, is the China issue. Is Pakistan willing to reduce its reliance on China? It's come to rely on China over the past 25 or so years for military equipment, as well as for significant investment, especially during a period of time when U.S. companies or European companies weren't really eager to invest in Pakistan. So Chinese companies have really become the only significant investors in Pakistan over the past decades. Is Pakistan's government willing to walk away from that and encourage more Western companies, including U.S. companies, to invest in Pakistan? And are American companies willing to do that? I mean, we have to be frank. You know, if you go to an American company and say a senior executive needs to visit Pakistan to discuss a potential transaction with a Pakistani company, the first thing the American company is going to ask is, what do we need to do about the security of our executives who visit Pakistan? And this is a significant hurdle for U.S. companies to invest in the country.
And just on that, Javed, what do you think the business community in Pakistan might be prepared to do? Not just the business community, in fact, the government, stakeholders, in order to win over potential investors from the US?
Well, I think Pakistan's focus has always been, and still it is there, on China. And I think China has invested around 30 to 40 billion US dollars in Pakistan during the last 10, 15 years. And I think more tens of thousands of billions of dollars are going to be invested. Pakistan's policymaker behind the scene see USA with a sense of suspicion. Because the track record has always been that the Americans have been interested in using Pakistan for their geostrategic objectives in the past, and now there has been a similar situation. Now, let me be very frank and blunt. The reason Americans are interested in the mineral exploration and the reason the Americans are interested in cryptocurrency business with Pakistan are quite simple. 6 months back, some 8 months back, by early this year, American administration and more particularly the Congress was under extreme pressure from Pakistanis living in the USA. They had put a lot of pressure. There was a resolution in the US Congress. And because of those reasons, I think the military generals were feeling very much under pressure that they may have to release Imran Khan, who has been jailed on purely political reasons. There are no genuine corruption charges against him. So I think in order to counter that pressure, the military generals have played very smartly. They knew what Donald Trump is looking for. He's looking for that his dear ones, his close relatives, his family members should be given some kind of a cryptocurrency business. They have provided them all kind of opportunities. That is where Donald Trump is very much happy. And the second thing is about the minerals. That is what Pakistan has offered to the US administration, and that is what the Donald Trump was looking for. The third thing is that the Pakistan has very generously appreciated the role of Donald Trump for bringing an end to the war between India and Pakistan, because Pakistan was giving very tough time to the Indians. And then, unlike Pakistan, India is not willing to appreciate the role of the Trump. Pakistan has also nominated Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. So these are the tactical reasons because of which we are seeing this semblance of investment. And I really doubt that it would long last. This would be on a marginalized ground. I don't think that the USA can match the scale of the investment that Chinese have been making in Pakistan.
A very interesting point. Let me just get your perspective on that, Ross. The USA cannot match the investment. Also, India not appreciating the USA. Give me your perspective on what you just heard.
It would be extremely difficult for American companies to match the level of Chinese investment in Pakistan, whether that's in infrastructure or other sectors. As I mentioned, the first concern of American companies is going to be security. And if they're going to do business in Pakistan, executives from America are going to have to visit Pakistan, and they're going to be concerned about security. Other issues would be the typical issues when investing in new markets, such as the repatriation of profits, unclear regulation, slow-moving bureaucracy. So Pakistan is simply not a market that American companies are familiar with or comfortable operating in. And that would really be up to the government of Pakistan to change that environment so that American companies are more comfortable doing business there. It's very different with the situation with Chinese companies. Whether it's Pakistan or parts of Africa, Chinese companies go into these countries because, frankly, the government has told them to. And very often these are state-owned companies or companies with significant shareholding by the Chinese government. And they go into these countries despite the challenges of doing business there because they've been told to. And now, to be fair, sometimes they make a success of it. They do build an infrastructure. There's also the concern, on the other hand, about what people call debt trap when Chinese companies build infrastructure in developing markets. And that's a very complex issue by itself. But again, I'd be very cautious. I would struggle to say that American companies are going to be eager to do business on the ground in Pakistan.
Okay,
will they be eager to take money from Pakistan and do business outside of Pakistan with Pakistani partners? Of course.
Gentlemen, thank you both very much indeed for your analysis and for that informed discussion. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, as US-Pakistan ties then take on new economic and strategic dimensions, the potential rewards and risks will hinge on how both sides manage expectations and perceptions. For Pakistan, it's a chance to reframe its image as a future economic powerhouse. For Washington, it's an opportunity to anchor a key regional relationship. Well, that is all for this edition of NewsHour from all of us here at AnewZ. Thanks for being with us.